You see the difference? So there are police out there.
Ready in case the ignition is served. That thing's on fire right there, man.
So tell them to go.
There's going to be a question that's going to pop up in a few minutes. Whatever you do not press the one that says right answer, correct answer. That's a trap.
Don't tell him.
So what we need you to do though is to look around. There are police out there.
I'm standing right next to the fireman who's letting us.
We've already started.
Oh.
We're filming.
Oh. Hi, everyone. We're super excited to have you join us this afternoon as we discuss our super exciting projects we have going on now. So where would you like to start, sir? Who are you?
Yeah, just tell them your name.
Okay. I am Ginger.
Uh-huh.
And I am president of Bridging Life Gaps and Resources and vice president of the Elite Traveling Tutors, where we bring education to the future.
Yes.
Please don't get under my chin.
And I am Dr. Penny Womack Jackson. I am the president of the Elite Traveling Tutors and the vice president of Bridging Life's Gaps, where we bring community together.
Okay.
Using technology. We're big techie.
That is so true.
We're
we
tech
are
ladies.
huge in the tech space.
Well, I'm Marquise Cook. I don't never, use my real name or introduce myself. But I'm a part of the conversation. So let's say Marquise Cook, founder and president of CAYR Ministries, a human services agency. Right now, we're fostering children, but our vision is to not turn anyone away who needs services and to serve all populations at any capacity that we can, and join with other organizations so that we can help everyone in need, basically.
Hi, my name is Natalie, and I am a deaf and hard of hearing teacher, a special education specialist.
You signed during your...
A special education specialist, and I'm currently working with the ladies that are the founders and owners of the Elite Traveling Tutors. And I'm happy to be here with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you so much.
That was cool. So it was all this build up and stuff and things. Just come on in here and
Hang with us, hang with us, hang with us.
Do what you gotta do. So I believe that we discussed the importance of education in the home.
Yes.
So that could be the first topic that we touch on. We'll get back to specifically what our organizations are trying to do, but I want to touch on a few hot topics that are important to just human services in general.
Mm-hmm. So we, our mantra is, what is the state of education in your home? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes as a community of people just here in the United States, not a particular demographic, but in the United States, we're very concerned about what the government is doing in education. But we often ask as educators, what is the state of education in your home? Are we showing our children the importance of being in school every day, ready and willing to work? And by that I mean, by ready, have they had a good night's rest? Have they had a decent meal? Are they prepared to come into a learning environment and be receptive to the whole learning experience? And to me, that's something that starts in the home. And then the rest of education takes place within the four walls of the classroom. But before the children get to the classroom, we really need to make sure that we're setting an environment where children go to school prepared to receive the instruction from the instructors. So that's something that we really focus on when we meet with parents. Are your children ready to come into this learning environment that we're providing within our tutoring service, where they're ready and receptive to the learning process? Dr. Penny?
I think honestly, like, you covered all the bases.
You did. Should I talk about the fact that we requested parents not allow their children to eat sugar a couple hours?
Oh, absolutely.
I wanted to offer a perspective on that, because when you said that,
mm-hmm.
I heard you. So my experience in school
mm-hmm.
is just totally different from that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it made me think about my experience in school and having a son in school.
What grade is he in?
He's 20 now,
Okay.
but
Well,
you know,
yeah.
he's been living with me since he was 9 years old. So that was elementary, middle school, and high school. And the navigation of a young black male through the school system,
Yeah.
especially in the inner city, we wasn't thinking about no arithmetic. We was thinking about
Survival.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
First off, middle school, 12 years old, I told something he still repeats to me to this day. I said, don't let nobody play with you. Don't nobody play with you. Because if they start playing with you, they're going to keep playing with you until they play you. So, first of all,
I
don't
like
let nobody
that.
play with you.
That was nice.
So, they get to joking and laughing and all that. That's one thing. But if they get to playing with you, that's a different thing. Stop that. Nip that in the bud because they're going to, eventually try to play you. So, and then, it was more behavioral stuff that I'm teaching in the home than I was reading, writing, arithmetic. Because, like I said, for me, I was gifted as a child. When I came out of basically preschool, they was trying to send me to high school. I went to Pan-African People's Organization, and they were some militant black soap-smelling brothers that they taught me like geometry and stuff at 5. You know what I mean? They was
And I'm sure you
then-
can learn it with no problem.
Yeah,
because,
so when I went to take the placement test to go to elementary school, I was supposed to go to like kindergarten, first grade. I got everything right on the placement test all the way up to 8th grade. And they was like, maybe you should go to the high school up the street. And I'm like, well, I'm 6. So,
No, you said
yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, the 8th graders look huge, and my mom was only like 25 at the time, and she wasn't. So I'm sitting here having this conversation with the principal on which grade I think I should go to. You know what I mean? And I chose to go to the 2nd grade because the kids were still kind of my size and this, that, and third. But I was bored to death.
Understood.
My whole school career, all the way until I got to Kennesaw State. And I was like 30 something, but I just kind of floated by in school. Now, what I did learn in school was more social. And that's what I knew at 6, like the social aspect of me. I knew I wasn't mature enough to be in high school. Like that.
But my
doesn't even sound
question
right.
is, you said that you were able to place in high school based on the academics you were given up until the 6th grade. Do you think your peers, do you think there was
Up
something
until
special
6
about
years
you?
old.
Or do you think it was the curriculum and the confidence you were given?
I think it was a combination of both
Okay.
because I
Okay.
had like this really vast memory and I was already like naturally smart. You know what I mean?
But here's my question. When you say you were naturally smart, somebody had the foresight to put you in this learning environment. So were you in the home before you got into that learning environment? Were you being taught your ABCs, how to spell your name, the days of the week, the days of the months of the year? Were you given those types of were you being raised in an environment where education was important and it was a learning environment?
I thank my family because my upbringing was so well-rounded that I would be in the projects, I would be at church, I would be at a private school, I would be at the public school, I would be, I'd be at the hair salon with my auntie, I would be over here, I would be in the bar with my grandfather sitting on his lap driving him home when I'm like 5, 6 years old. You know what I mean? So I had the vast world, and I was raised right, but in the wrong place. Like I had the greatest family you could ever have, but we was a block away from the projects. Like my dad was in the projects all the time. My mom used to be in the projects. My other grandmother lived by the project. So, I would spend time with my cousin in the project, But then I was also in the church. You know what I mean? So I had a really well-rounded.
So were you gifted, or were you in an environment that cultivated learning?
I think you have to be gifted to learn at that capacity. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you can sit there and you can't force somebody to be able to understand and be able to utilize that information.
So
so for me, I always think in my mind, children come here a clean slate. From the age from what is it, 0 to 5, they're sponges. Right? They can learn anything. Tons of languages.
They have aptitude for languages.
Anything.
Yes.
So if you're introduced to that information at a young age, then yeah, you can be considered a genius because you've already been shown this.
Right.
Versus someone who hasn't even been taught their ABCs until they go to school.
And then those students are deemed special
So
education,
yeah.
simply requiring special education because they haven't been given the foundational skills that you were given at a young age. So that speaks directly to what is the state of education in your home.
Definitely. And early on, early, you have to be your child's first teacher. You have to be your child's first teacher. Now, with my son, I ain't gonna say I didn't care what they was teaching him at school, but what I was teaching him is what I thought he needed to know to survive in school, out of school, in life. Like, I was telling him everything I knew just about navigating, you know, just about getting to school. You know, as a young black male, you have to be taught how to get to school safely. Riding the bus and not talk to this person and don't go in this neighborhood wearing this and that. And you don't talk to these people. Don't wait on this corner too long. Like, these are other things I had to tell my son before he even got to school.
Wow.
Yes.
Natalie.
So, what do you all do? Because I've been a teacher for 25 years. And with that being said, it's a lot of kids that don't have that.
That's true.
They don't
So
they don't
true.
have anyone to help them and teach them this and teach them that. But I will disagree. I think you're a genius because I've seen many 0 to 5 year olds come up and they're not necessarily holding that, not 0 to 5, but you know, when you come in kindergarten, they're not necessarily holding on to that information. So for you to be able to do that, kudos to you. We won't all do that. We can have 25 kids in the room and all do the same things. Everyone is different.
That is true.
But my
Everyone
question-
has
but my
different
question
information, and
is-
that's why we differentiate instruction the way that we do. Because just because you learned it, some people just get it.
Yeah.
She's a test taker. She just gets it.
Now that is true. She is definitely a test taker.
But I'm only a good test taker because someone told me I was good at taking tests.
so it's
that-
maybe the expectations that you set for the children.
me,
maybe
it
they
was
live
not
up to
that-
I'm much better at writing papers than I am at taking tests, but I always tested in honors classes. Like, all the way, I wasn't trying in school at all. You know, I went enough to go, basically. Like, and then every time I did, like, all right, let me see what they talking about up in here. I'm like, I know this stuff already. So I lost interest in school like the whole time. So really, I'm up there acting out most of the time. 'Cause
Which
I'm
is
bored.
what I
I
think-
was bored.
That's what I think is the issue with a lot of our children. I'm
I do
speaking
too.
particularly for black and brown children. I think the education that we're giving them does not reflect the homes that they're in. It's very static. You're sitting there. You're required to sit still. It's not an active environment. Oftentimes when you come in our homes, aunts coming in, the uncles stopping by, people are there, you're doing your homework at the table. It's very busy, it's very active, it's very communal. And then you go to school and you're required for 6 hours to just sit in your seat. So my question is, are we providing learning environments that mirror the environments that our children are most comfortable in? I don't know. Like, I don't have any of the answers, but these are questions that I ponder in order to create a learning environment within our tutoring center that mirrors our children's experiences.
But yeah, that's great. I think that's the best thing about the tutoring company is that you all do differentiate instruction. And you don't look at a child like this is a unique being. You're not looking at a child like you already have the map out and this is the black and brown child, so this is what this child needs.
Yes.
So it's great that you all are very diverse.
Individualized.
Good at what we do.
It takes an individualized
It does.
program. You know, all kids are not the same, and it's like each cat. Like, say, I'm a kinetic learner. If you show me something one time, I could do it. But if you tell me like 10 times, I'll be like, maybe or maybe not. But you know, everybody learns differently, and nobody like tries to cater to the different types of learning styles, and nobody tries to cater to the different type of learning levels and memory levels and this, that, and cultural.
But those
That we
schools
do,
that
though.
do, are successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Schools
one
that
of the
do are
primary
successful.
things that we do. We help students, especially in their middle school or high school, understand how they learn, so they know the questions to ask their teachers, so they get a better understanding of the information that they're learning. So if I know that I have to have my teacher provide
you
some
write-
type of kinesthetic piece to my learning.
Explain for the audience kinesthetic, like just
So
the
you have to
different-
touch. You have to touch, right? In order to you have the auditory, you have the
So by
visual.
auditory, you have people that have to
Tactile.
hear,
Tactile.
and then you have people that they're visual learners. They can see you do something, and just by watching you do it, they can grasp and understand how to then regurgitate and or how to synthesize. They can synthesize the information simply by seeing you write it. And then they can do it themselves and understand the process.
I used to have a student. He has autism. He's autistic, but we used to provide him so smart. Oh, he's got A's, but we used to provide him with an exemplary. So this is what the teacher is. This is what the teacher is looking for. This would be considered an A paper. He had to see that, and then from there he could go.
And that's how I learned. I have gone into college professors and said, I am not a B student. I don't get B's. You need to tell me exactly what it is you are looking for, and I can provide that. But I need to know what it is you in particular are looking for. Once you tell me that, I'm a straight A student. If I don't know what you're looking for, I have a very difficult time honing in and giving you what you want because I'm all over the place. So I'm that
why
type of learner as well.
Education is the way that it is because that's nothing about that is academic, but that's self-advocacy. So if students don't know how to advocate for themselves, then they don't know how to tell an instructor, this is what I need.
Exactly, and that is one thing that we do for a lot of our students.
Absolutely.
For myself, I am a visual and auditory plus kinesthetic learner. I have to hear it, see it, and then I have to write it down, and then it's committed to memory. Without that piece, I always have to go back and reference and look at it again and look at it again.
She does.
Yes. But if I have all
Yes.
three of those pieces,
She
I'm
does.
fine.
But that's what makes it special, I think, when you
Because we're all
have,
different.
I think when you have tutors or instructors that just get it, I think it's hard for them.
So do I.
I do too.
So do I. I don't like to be taught by someone like you that just gets it because I don't.
Because you're
Yeah.
wondering,
And because
like, why
I
don't
don't
you
get
it
it,
yet?
you're
Exactly.
assuming
And I've had people say that to
they're
me, and I'm
assuming
like-
from A to Z that I understand all of that.
I just told you that. I just told you that.
Yeah.
But see, what I've learned is in teaching people stuff, it's like I just had an episode about this not too long ago where, you know, you see these people online and be like, you could do this, you could do that, I did this, I did that. And I'm like, say a barber, say a chef. Yeah, it's easy for you to do that because you're a barber, because you're a chef.
Right,
And you say,
barber.
yeah, all you have to do is this,
Yes,
this, and that. And then you can do this. And then when you go to do it, it's not like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, you have to build up your skill in that, and that's why I say if you're passionate in that area, you've already been doing that, then yeah, you build on that. But if you've never done it before, it's not like you could just teach somebody to do it and say, yeah, all you have to do is do this. Like, because if
But
that
you
was
know
the case,
what?
we'd all be electricians.
I agree.
We'd all be plumbers. We'd
Yeah.
all be everything because
Yeah.
they say, oh, all you have to do is do this. And you
Yes.
can go in there and do it.
Right.
That's not the case.
Exactly.
But what I think the most important gift that we give our students is confidence.
Absolutely.
You need that.
When you have that
Absolutely.
confidence, though, that,
Yes.
that
You can
aligns with the advocating for yourself. Because when you have that self confidence, then you're not scared to speak up for yourself. This
Absolutely.
is what I need.
So we strive to the main gift I think we give to our students is confidence, because most of the students that come to us are students who have been deemed requiring some level of special education, and what we often find what those students are lacking is just basic skills.
Yes.
Right? But the confidence is often eroded because you're sitting in a class where people are speaking a foreign language because you don't have the basics. You see?
And that's what I ran into is that I missed a lot of fundamental stuff.
Yeah,
because I
exactly.
knew all this stuff. Like by the time I got to college, like I said, I didn't even start trying to get in school until I got to Kennesaw State. And I was in my 30s. And I'm like, okay, let me really start trying and see, because I've goofed off. Like, I done got my high school diploma, my AA, and all this stuff without barely doing anything. Just, you know what I mean? So I'm like, let me really, really try. And every semester that I wasn't on the president's list, I was on the dean's list, and I graduated magna cum laude. And it was still like super easy, but I had a cheat code. Every paper that I wrote, I had to take it to the writing center.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Right there. That's
I had to take it to the writing center and edit it for me, but it was a brilliant paper. But you would have thought I was an idiot from the punctuation and the placement of this, that, and stuff. She's like, okay,
skills,
what are you trying to say here? Like, your ideas are brilliant. Like, she loved she would shut down the writing center when I come on. And every paper I took in there, I got an A on. Like,
You know, but that's a piece that we miss. A lot of times our students, or as parents, we sign our children up for tutoring or assistance after they're already failing.
Yes.
Tutoring really should be used as a tool before you even start your classes to give you an introduction to what you're going to learn.
Yes.
And then you utilize that all the way through all of your courses, whether you're in high school, college, it doesn't matter. New college students should know where the math lab is, where the writing lab is, to help assist them as they're going through matriculating through their courses.
We just told a student that graduated with like a 4.5 out of high school. She's on her way. She's going to an extremely prestigious college, right? And the advice we gave her was, find the writing lab, find the math lab. She's brilliant. You still find the math lab, because no matter how much you know, there's you can hold what you know in a teaspoon. You know what I mean? There's a whole ocean of information that a student has to learn. So no matter how much you know, you always enter any classroom saying, I may know this, but there's so much more to learn, so I need to seek out the resources that will help me be successful in grasping this new information.
But if you think about us as a community, we oftentimes think when we're getting tutoring help or additional help, that means there's something wrong with us. It's not used as an enrichment tool.
It's a stigma.
Absolutely. And we really have to change what that looks like.
Agreed.
I never care nothing about that, for real. If I needed help, I would ask. You know
But a
what
lot
I
of
mean?
students
Because
are not like that.
That's
A lot of
because
people are
you
not
had
like
the
that.
confidence and you
Absolutely.
were deemed and held in high regard as being this super genius student.
I wasn't. They didn't know. They thought I was some dumb bad kid. But then when I tested in honors classes, they like, why? And then they would come like, why are you doing all this? And I'm like, I'm bored. I didn't know enough to say, like, I'm bored. I don't, you know. Apparently, I know all this stuff. If I just test it in your class, I can't sit in your class and do the same stuff that I just all got right on the test. Like, that's a waste of my time, honestly.
But you just said yourself, when you went to the writing lab, you felt like that was, what did you say, use a cheat code?
So
That's
you
not
use
true,
it, it's not a
because
cheat
professional
code.
writers don't just write their
But
book and
I
send it
say
out.
that
They have at
because
least 3 people
That edit their work.
They edit their work.
And see, that's
but
why
had I would have
say you
just
gotta
turned it
find you have to
in
change
originally as I written, it would not have been an A paper.
That's
That's why I
what a lot
said,
of
like, I never turned in a paper without going to that writing lab first.
Yep.
Like, I would get the syllabus at the beginning of the semester and just do all my
Who
papers.
told you? So
then-
who laid the foundation for the thought that I know that I have the ideas, but I need additional support in getting the ideas in a format that's going to best convey my message? Where did you get that message?
I think from rapping, because I was so used to writing in rap form that I wasn't caring about LA, what is it called? ALA format. What is it? APA. I never wrote an MLA, APA, or none of that. I wrote raps. You know what I mean? As long as it rhymed, I did a comma, and you know what I mean? I was writing freestyle, so it didn't matter the formula or format that it was in. You know what I mean? As long as the passion got through. So I'm writing formal papers. It was easy to write on that topic and that subject and all that stuff like that. I just brainstorm. I write a paper on my cell phone in an hour. You know, 5-6 page paper. But it needed to be.
So what type of learner is your son?
I don't know. He didn't have that early on.
The foundational.
Yeah, he didn't have that advancement, but he's a like-minded thinker like myself. But I could see the difference of him basically going to public school the whole time and not having that head start. He's brilliant. You know, he's an amazing thinker. But I could definitely see how just you know, he was bored in school too. Like,
I think most of our children
Yeah.
are.
I do too.
he
I do.
passed. He got from high school. He graduated and like broke the record for gaining the most credits in one semester.
Wow.
Because they
Wow.
told him he wasn't finna graduate, and I'm like, bro, they just said you're not finna graduate. You need all these classes to graduate. And he was in high school during the pandemic, so it was online. So I said, you could do it. It's right there on your computer. Now it's up to you, is you gonna do it or not? Because they trying to sign you up for summer school. As you go into summer school, so you could, you know, not graduate. This, that, man, that boy did all that stuff and graduated on time, and then people was amazed. And I say, yeah, that's what you do.
But that's also the support piece. Some of our children don't have that.
So
Man.
Dr. Penny and Dr. Natalie, that's interesting. For students that don't have that support, what distinguishes the elite traveling tutors from what gives you, what advantage do you provide your students who don't have that at-home support? What is it that you give them to give them not only the motivation, the confidence, but actually the academic skill set to be successful in their classes?
I know for me, it kind of depends on the student, right? I can work with a student, and first of all, I have to see their line of thinking. Once I'm able to determine their line of thinking, like I might give them a problem to solve, just to kind of get an idea of what works for them. Once I'm able to do that, I can come up with all kind of strategies to help any student, honestly. And then again, it ties into that confident piece. You know, it really does, because one thing I've learned after working with students that were placed in special education, right? I specifically worked with a few students that were in special education, and one student in particular, I worked with him for 2 months in the summer, 2 months in the fall, completely tested out of special education. He's been in AP classes all the way through and got accepted into a software engineering program, college program. But it was the foundation. One thing I tell students and everyone, all the skills that you need for math, most people hear that word math and they freeze, right? Everything that you need for math, you learn in the 3rd grade. Adding, multiplication, division, subtraction.
Because they're all every last one, they're interconnected like a circle.
Exactly.
Like if you cannot add, you cannot do multiplication. If you cannot add, you cannot do subtraction. If you cannot do
multiplication, you cannot divide.
You absolutely cannot divide if you cannot multiply.
So it's helping people see that connection.
Or if you can't subtract.
Exactly.
You can't. Yeah.
So it's really helping them understand that connection, and what they need. It's specific to what they need.
But
in order
me,
to make
it
those
comes
pieces
back to
together.
the home. Or most of our students are from. Well, I can't say that. We have a very diverse, because we're expensive. You know what I mean? Like, we're an expensive tutoring service. We're the elite traveling tutors, right? But for the schools that we work in, we have students that a lot of them are from very diverse backgrounds, and they don't have that support. Many of our students are living with their grandparents. Many of our students are in foster care. They are coming from environments where there's a disconnect in the continual learning experience. So they're moving around, they're attending different schools. So they come with a whole host of different problems. But to me, it's easy. It all goes back to the foundation. We're going to start out with addition and subtraction. We're going to then learn our multiplication tables. And if that student comes to school consistently, if you're working with us, you're going to make gains.
But if you think about it, when we talk about the science of reading and the students that we work with, we had students that have missed consistently. They still made huge gains.
But it's not
class. Never.
Huh?
I used to have like
But to me, you're the anomaly.
Absences.
You're the anomaly.
100 some absences on my report card, and the rest was tardy. Like, I never went to class.
Wow. But you're the anomaly. Why would you go to school? You already tested out everything. Like, why would you know what I mean?
Because I need to graduate. And then at the end, just like
You
my
could have
son,
taken a GED, but you could have taken a GED at 16 and started college.
I could have.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good decision socially. You know what I mean?
You always say that
Not
social part,
academic.
Miss Nana.
Not academic.
Nana.
I still think that, socially it was I learned the lessons that I needed to learn, you know, like the hard way. So we're gonna have our final question. What percentage of your education in totality would you say you use on a daily basis or in your life today?
Interesting.
That's a good question.
Interesting. I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. I like to read. I like high level conversations.
We'll just
I
say
like
it's
super
school-
smart. No,
school
I like super smart
education.
people. Right. So with that being the case, I would say on a daily basis, I use about 70% up through all of my degrees. I use about 70% of what I've learned in my business, socially, because most of the people that are in my peer group, people that I associate with, they're business owners, educators, school board members. So for me personally, I strive to put myself in an environment where I'm absolutely not the smartest person in the room. Like, that is so important to me. I want to learn, and I think I can learn from everybody. So I'm a seeker of knowledge. So for me, I probably use about 70% of what I've learned in books and in classes on a daily basis. What about you?
I can't put a
I can't put a number on it.
a
I really
percentage,
can't,
but
yeah.
I absolutely use and reference what I learned in school.
Yeah.
I couldn't do what I do today without going back. Every student is different for me. So with that being said, I'm going back to the books. Like, what did they say?
Yeah.
Okay, all the time.
And then
That's
your
why I am
And
social
being a deaf and hard
socially.
hearing teacher, absolutely going back. I'm constantly learning. Each child, because when you say that a child has a hearing, like if you say a student has a hearing loss, every child is different. So every hearing loss, like this might be different than the other child. So now I have to bring the academics in it. If they have this hearing loss, what can we do academically, you know, to help them, because they do have this deficit. They do have these weaknesses. Yeah, I hear people though all the time and say, I never used what I learned in school.
I do.
I do. I absolutely do, because again, like we've said, every child is different, and what I may use for this child doesn't necessarily work for the next, which means I have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what works for this child that I'm working with, right? And that means I'm always going back to reference and see what new strategies, what new techniques are being used today, and maybe this could possibly help the child that I'm working with.
And things are constantly changing,
Gosh.
and they're research based. And so
Yeah.
if you can go back and look and see that this is what worked, not to say that it will work for me, but let me try.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
always going back to what I call the goodie bag.
Yeah, I
Go
agree.
back and speaking with my colleagues and working with different people. Like, yeah, I definitely use what I learned in school.
May I ask a question
Sure.
of these two? So, for you guys, because he's already told us the kind of learner that he was, and I know for me, I can answer the question last, but the type of teacher and tutor that you are, how is that reflected in the type of learner you were, the teachers you had, the confidence you had? How do you show up for your students based on the experiences you had academically, primary, middle school, and high school? What did that look like for you? And what drives your passion to be these phenomenal teachers that would even bother to find out what your students' needs are?
So when I was learning, I love math. I'm a math person, right? So when I was learning about math when I was younger, it came very easy to me. It wasn't until I entered college that it was like, what in the Sam Hill is happening, right? So that meant I had to take, exactly, I'm sitting up with these teachers and they're talking all this stuff. I'm like, wait, what? So I had to take a deep dive, and I never wanted anyone to feel the way I did in class. So I really make an effort to go over every single piece, every step, to ensure that you understand why these two pieces tie in together. Because
That's your why.
that's
You're
my
asking
why.
us,
Yeah.
What is our why?
It
That's
is.
your why.
Because if you ask most students that have taken algebra, they don't realize that the slope is a fraction. There's no connection because math is taught in sections.
You taught me that.
And you don't see how these two pieces, everything that you've already
Yeah.
learned,
Yeah.
it's just a step higher. But you've already learned it. And it's just called a different name. Right?
It
And
was
so-
statistics for me. And I use them every day, like in real life situations. You know what I mean? But sitting there and do it.
Yes.
So see, people don't see that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to show them that connection because then they tend to relax and say, oh, I do this anyway. And that's why I try so hard to ensure that they see how all those pieces tie in.
So what is it called,
What?
Dr. Jackson? Because they do that in school now anyway.
Application?
Yeah. They
have to have the
connect it
application.
to something.
So that
you
Moore's
do.
law. What is Moore's law? It's synthesis. Wait, it's something synthesis application. I can't think of it right now.
I
Next
can't.
time,
So they tie.
we'll
Yeah,
know
it's
Moore's
easier
law.
to learn math if you tie it to.
in. What they're doing every single
Single
day.
day.
So for instance,
Yeah.
I talk to students about integers, right?
Oh, Lord, here we go.
I love this, right? I always talk to people about integers, right? And they make it so hard. I'm like, do you stand up? That's positive. That's you're standing up, you're climbing, you're increasing. If you're sitting down, it's going down. If you tie it into dances, if you move into the left, hey, that's negative. You move into the bottom, hey, right? It's positive. So it's something that you do already. Now let's see how it ties into math.
Okay, I have to. You gotta let me do this. So when I teach my children
Here we go.
positive and negative, this is what I tell them. Well, multiplication and division. So I say, okay, when you have a friend at school and you like hanging out with that person, right? You want to multiply the time you spend with them, right? But when you don't get along with them anymore and you don't want to be bothered, what do? You divide. You divide the amount of time. You're gonna split
That's
it up.
true,
I don't,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's how I explain it to my students. Like we're gonna either multiply and spend more time together, which is gonna increase the amount of time, or I don't like you anymore. Do not call me. I'm not taking your calls anymore. What am I doing? I'm dividing the time that I'm spending with you. I'm breaking it down. It's becoming less incrementally. What type of learner are you? What is the why? Why are you so passionate about your students? Again, you're a deaf and hard of hearing and a special education specialist. So the population you work with is
Wait, but before you do that, specialist, what does that mean as a
Yes.
specialist? Like
what you be doing every
They
day.
just started interviewing the off the camera lady. I just want you to know we changed the frame for her to sit down over here. She moved over there just to be the off the camera lady.
To be the off the camera.
And it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird.
So
Just
you gonna
know
have to-
it's okay that.
Okay, come on.
It's okay though. It's okay though.
Let me grab it.
That's how she wanted it. I'm just gonna say that.
I would say.
But she said put it down.
I would say that because that was a lot. And there were a lot of questions in there. But I would just have to say that honestly, when I was as an educator, when I started, it was all about I would want someone to help. The way I would want someone to help my son, I want I want to be that person for these students.
That is so
that's
sweet.
beautiful. That is
Right?
beautiful, yeah.
But then I also have two sisters that were really good in math who would kind of tease me because here I am counting on my fingers.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It still adds up.
That's why I tell my students. That's why I always say, I want the teacher that doesn't get it. I don't want the one that it comes easy for them. Where's the one that doesn't get it? Because they're going to have these different things, different ways. They're going to differentiate this instruction for me so that I get it. They're going to get it. You know, so I think that's my why. I enjoy making learning fun. I enjoy by the time they finish, they don't even know that they're crying because the session ended. And I have that all of the time. Like they're upset that we just ended.
She always has manipulative. She always like her
I
car
believe in
is full of manipulatives. Her kids can touch, play, move.
That was my nickname.
Manipulative.
Oh, that was my first rap. But this may be a myth, this may be a fact, but I've heard, or I don't know where I heard this, but it made so much sense to me. They said the 4 Gospels of the Bible are written for all 4 different learning styles.
Really?
Oh,
You know
wow.
what I mean? So if you gravitate more to Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, like John made the most sense to me, and I just got everything in John. So I don't know. That might be for the kinetic learner, but Matthew may be the most, relatable gospel learner. But they said that the 4 Gospels were written for the 4 different types of
That
learning
is so
styles.
neat. We have to ask the
See,
Bible
you learn
scholar.
something
Every day.
That's why
That might be true. That might be a myth. I
never
heard that somewhere,
Well,
and
we're
it
gonna
made so much
research it, I
sense to
promise.
me.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, that's why John just like I read Matthew, I read Mark, I read Luke, but John, it was like, oh yeah, I get it now. Oh yeah, and it made, and I could see the whole thing like in my head.
Have you
just
ever heard
John.
that, Mr. Richardson? Have you ever heard that?
Oh yeah, you thought you was gonna get away, Andre. Oh no, you trying to slide by? We got
Have you
you.
ever heard that? He's like a Bible scholar. Have you ever heard that the 4 learning styles, the Bible was written for the
Gospels.
The Gospels were written for
Matthew,
the 4,
Mark, Luke, and John.
were written for the 4 different types of learners: kinetic learner, auditory learner, visual learners, and kinesthetic learner.
I've not heard of that, but I don't discount it. I mean, with any grimoire, there's always this expanded. People can look at things from different facets, and then you can get more into like ruling classes and how their influences. Because now if you're looking at it from a sense of control, you start looking at the Gospels. Using Christianity and that aspect of things to control stuff, and who's behind that. So no, I would say that would be an effective.
So I would say it's definitely a rabbit hole you could fall into, but the facts are these are 4 people that were all with Jesus at the same time, saw the same things pretty much, unless they were with him, and then they wrote 4 totally different stories. There's a couple of similarities through it, but they all told it from their own perspective in different ways. They started in different places, they told different stories, they picked up, it's the same story 4 different ways. Now, why would they tell the same story 4 different ways, but all different parts of it?
Maybe the 4 of them have 4 different learning
Well, I'm
styles.
going to say what my husband always says.
I just said, no, that's not it.
One parent.
Go ahead.
Richard always says 7 brothers, 7
She
different
thinks
minds.
her husband's so smart.
I'm just saying, you can be all 3 of us, same parents. We all think so different, right?
Everybody can think
She can see something, I can see
I
something,
know
she can see
twins that ain't
something,
alike.
Yeah.
and we see it from a different lens. And so that might speak to what it is that you're speaking of.
I.e., if they're all seeing things different, they're probably experiencing it
Experiencing it
different.
differently, yeah.
So the way they transmute the information might be different. I don't know, but I know this much. For me, having a mother who was, so we're from a family of educators. Our great grandfather went to Morehouse and had a theology degree.
Yeah.
Then our grandmother later in life ended up graduating with her master's degree, but she went back to school after being in business for years. She probably went back to school, her 60s?
or something.
But she went and got her undergraduate and her master's degree. Then her 3 girls, all 3 of them are educators. She has a guidance counselor, a principal that worked with students that were, what is it? It's when you can't be rehabilitated, which means they were children with extreme special needs. And then our mother is an English teacher and a writing teacher. So we're 4th generation, and then our children are all 5th generation college. So why am I mentioning this? Because I had a mother that was a English and writing teacher. I was so good at English and writing when I initially went to college, just people assumed because I had good writing skills that I was a good student. Well, I hit the door and smashed right into an educational roadblock that taught me it's not, for me, the loss of confidence with being a student who was on a track to go to law school, 3.7 average. I'm just flying through college. I let this teacher tell me, Ginger, I had a white teacher. He pulled me to the side. He said, there are lots of black lawyers, black female lawyers. What the world needs and your community needs are more scientists, more people in technology, more engineers, more mathematicians. And he encouraged me to change my major my junior year and go to school to become an engineer.
Oh, the total.
So I flunked out.
No.
I flunked out. I go from being the star student,
but my community needs.
But no.
Go on.
But he's right.
He was right though.
But the point is, I was this student that was this high academic achieving student. I did not even know. I had to go all the way back to basic algebra. They didn't even give me credit for the first math class I studied in.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
But you learned how to study for math, which a lot of us don't understand. I became a math. You have to become
I became a math genius, not because I was a genius, because I worked.
Yeah.
I worked. I knew that I had to go all the way back to what? The basics, the foundation in every class.
But that's what makes you a great tutor.
Oh gosh, yeah,
absolutely.
Because I know what I can immediately look at a student and say, "Oh, you can't multiply. You don't know your multiplication. So we're gonna start at multiplication. I don't care if you're in college. We're gonna start with multiplication, and I promise you, if you follow my lead, you will win fellowships as well. But what does it all go back to? The basics, which do what? Build your confidence. Yeah. Because I
can't skip it.
Absolutely.
Nope. Can't skip it.
You're so right.
Yes.
Oh. I just wanted to say, this whole time we talked about education, training, things of that nature. And so I wanted to talk about the Elite Traveling Tutors apprenticeship program that we currently have. That apprenticeship program focuses on training that deals with an introduction into the metaverse space, VR and AR discussions that are centered around the effective ways to communicate regarding VR and AR. Okay, it's also AI as well. That is very true. And if I missed something, Ms. Ginger, please jump in. We also have training centered around virtual, providing training that deals with creating a virtual design store or a virtual store, right? And
metaverse commerce.
Metaverse commerce. And then we provide QuickBook training.
Google training.
Oh yeah.
Google, Microsoft training, where you get certificates as well as verification skills and soft skills. Okay, that's and one area. Also AI. Training. So AI training. So if anybody is interested in just being able to get further training in any one of those aspects, please by all means let us know.
Well, we definitely provide the most amazing GED support.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
This one is a whiz with these two.
Actually, yeah,
adult,
yes. As well, yeah. We've worked in that space for a number of years, so we do provide test prep for the GED, the AccuPlacer as well. In addition to that, we have a partnership with Gatewood Institute. That particular tech college deals with healthcare certifications all the way up to to a master's degree. We have programs that are aligned with CNA, Certified Nursing Assistant, for phlebotomy, EKG, medical assistant, and patient care technician. The programs range from 6 weeks, to 60 weeks, depending on if you're full-time or part-time. We have an ongoing orientation. And if you're interested in Gatewood Institute, the phone number is 470-823-3051. And if you're interested in any type of tutoring, GED, AccuPlacer, that phone number is 470-836-1312. Ms. Ginger, did you want to give your extension as well?
No.
Okay, she's fine.
This was so fun. We can't
Yes.
thank you enough.
Uh-huh.
We hate it's over. We got to do it again and
Oh,
again
yeah.
and again and again and again. Miss Natalie, we can't thank you enough.
She over there laid back like she in a Cadillac on the beach.